Hi folks, welcome back. So I want to talk about this very minimal agent that I've been building and playing with and explain the motivation behind it and how it works. So for the longest time, I've been really fascinated by this idea of the smallest possible agent harness that could actually work and that could actually be useful. And my own background is that I did a lot of work on compilers and languages back in the day, and so I was looking at this from a programming languages point of view, and I really wanted to find that absolute smallest core. If you look at things like the original Lisp paper, where McCarthy expressed Lisp in Lisp, and it was like maybe half a page of code. Or if you look at systems like Smalltalk, where they have a very small core, and then they can build an entire system and an entire tower of abstractions on top of that. I wanted to find that minimal core. How small can you make what I'm calling a seed agent that you can then grow something useful out of that is still usable, that can still do real work, that isn't a complete toy? So that's what I've tried to do with Seed. And the only large dependency it has is Simon Willison's LLM library because I still need some way to make calls to models. And I also wanted a simple library that can abstract over a ton of models. I want to make the models swappable. So yeah, it depends on the LLM library, but let me show you the prompt. So this is it. That's the entire prompt. The only tool it starts out with is exec, which executes bash code in the directory that the seed was planted in. But that's about it. I tell it that it has this one folder to play with, that it should save things as it goes about its tasks. And what I know so far, nothing. I was just planted. So this whole prompt is about 113 words. Maybe I can get it smaller. I don't know. It started out a bit longer and then I pruned it down some more. And because it uses Simon Willison's excellent LLM library, you can use it with any model you choose. I'm using it with my Codex subscription. And it's really easy to get started. You basically just initiate or plant a seed in a directory. So I'll show you how it starts out. Very simple, very basic. And then I'll show you a few turns so that you get a sense of how easily and quickly you can build it up to something that's a bit more useful. So let me plant a seedling in this new directory here. So this UVX invocation will plant a seed in the current directory and it'll leave you in its very simple turn-based text UI. You can see the file structure over here. It copies over its own agentic loop. It makes a directory called self, and the only thing in this self directory is its very initial prompt, the one I just showed you. So that's the initial prompt. Very minimal setup. Now let's try doing something. We can just say something like, who are you? What can you do? And you can see over here how it's making tool calls. It's listing some files, reading the contents of those files in order to answer my question. It's seeing what is in this current directory. And there's the answer. I'm seed, a small, persistent, self-modifying assistant rooted in this repository. I can do all these things, and it's already self-modifying. So I've saved this identity in self.md and committed it to Git. So one of the things I tell it to do in self.md is keep making Git commits to a locally instantiated Git repo. So already you can see it's adding stuff to this markdown file as it discovers things about its environment. I can start making it a bit more useful by telling it about myself. So let me say, my name is Vivek Haldar. Search the web to learn about me. And you can already see how in response to that query, it is writing some Python code to go do a web search about me. And then it's looking at the pages that come back. So it looks like it found my website, vivekhaldar.com. And so it's looking through my website. Looks like it found my GitHub. So it's searching the web to learn about me. All right, there you go. So it came back. It learned a bunch of stuff about me from searching the web, my website, my GitHub profile, what I've been working on, Enchiridion Labs, agents, all that stuff. So it found all these sites that uh, talk about me and my work. And once again, if you hop over to its directory, you can see that now it has a user.md where it has persisted all this information it just found out about me. And if you look at self, you will find that in this file, it now talks about me and it points to this new user.md file that it just created. So all that is to say that even though it started out with this really bare seed, which had no information about me, no information about the environment it lives in, it very quickly, over just 2 or 3 turns of conversation, was able to explore and learn about these things and then persist all this information so that it can make use of this in future turns. The next thing I want to demonstrate is how you can use this seedling to modify itself, to modify its own core agentic loop. So for example, this basic text UI is very primitive. All the replies and the tool calls, they all bleed into each other. They're hard to tell apart. So I can tell it something like, can you change your main loop so that there is some visual and color differentiation between the user input, reasoning, and tool traces, and the final answer. All right, so in response to that request, it went and did a bunch of coding and came back and said, okay, I changed seed.py, which is its core agentic loop, to have some visual differentiation between all these different kinds of messages. And this change will take effect the next time the loop starts. So let me exit this and run seed again. And you can already see how this code has grown, this directory has grown. By the way, when you plant a seed, you get this shell script to run it locally as opposed to the very simple seed that the GitHub repo has. And that's because the idea is for you to add functionality and information. So if I run this local seed now, hopefully we will see some colored differentiation. Okay, so I already see the user message in a different color. And let me ask it, how have you evolved since the beginning? All right, good. So it does show the reasoning and tool calls over here, but there is some nice textual formatting here for me to tell the tool calls apart from my user input. So this user input is in a different color, and then the tool calls are in a different color. And there's the final answer, which once again is visually differentiated from the tool calls and reasoning traces. I began with almost nothing. I am a seed. I know nothing. Since then, I've evolved. I rewrote self.md. I learned who you are. I modified my own conversational loop. And so the point is starting out with this very simple, minimal, clean slate. What is the smallest system prompt plus agent that can still grow into something useful? Starting from that, and just in a few turns of conversation building up to this. And I've got some other seeds that I've been using for a while, and they've become fairly complex. For example, I have a seed that now, instead of a text UI, has a web UI because I've asked it to modify its own code to do things like that. So I thought that was kind of a cool intellectual experiment. Again, very inspired by Lisp and Smalltalk and this whole idea of being homo-iconic, where code and data are the same thing. They lead into each other. So I will leave a link to the GitHub repo. Try it out, play with it. Let me know how it goes. All right, thanks.